So the title for this talk comes from the title of this book by Greg Mortensen and David Relin, 3 Cups of Tea. And the backstory here is Greg was a climber or a mountaineer in the Himalayas. He was climbing on K2, which is the second highest mountain in the world, and he fell, he was injured, and he was nursed back to health by this Balti tribe in the Balti village in the Pashtun region where they were. And he was there for some months because he was seriously hurt. And one day when he was recovering, he saw some children outside of one of the houses just kind of like scratching in the dirt. And he sent to his host, I mean, are they playing? He said, no, that's their school. They're scratching their lessons in the sand. This is their school. And he was so impacted by this and so grateful for the hospitality of this village that he decided that he wanted to build a school in this village for the children. But then he realized that he had to build a bridge over the river to get materials to the village to build the school. Fast forward some years, and this started a huge global nonprofit, Greg did, to build schools in this high Hindu Kush region of the world, specifically for girls. In that culture, in that Muslim culture, girls' education is not the most important thing, but that's what he wanted to focus on. And he actually, he worked, this is the time during the whole conflicts in Afghanistan, and he worked in conjunction with the Taliban leaders to make this happen. And for some time, this book was required reading for all the allied military commanders in the region because it gave such an insight into the culture of the people. Now, at the start of this book, there's a quote, okay? And it says, in Balti, in Pashtun culture, the first cup of tea that you have with someone, you're a stranger. The second cup of tea you have with that person, you're a friend, or a guest, rather. And the third cup of tea you have with someone, you are family, all right? So what I want to do now is start with the importance of the number 3, okay? It has huge bearing on all our lives. In religion, in Christianity, you have the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost as the 3 main elements. In Buddhism, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. In Hinduism, the Brahma, the Vishnu, and Shiva are the 3 main kind of tenets. In mythology, Norse mythology, you had Niflheim, Muspelheim, and Ginnungagap. Niflheim being the land of ice, Ginnungagap being the land of fire, and if anyone's seen kind of Thor, you'll know these terms, and Muspelheim, which is the gas in between them. In Greek mythology, you have Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades as the kind of 3 main actors. And in Egyptian mythology, Osiris, Isis, and Horus. Okay? Literature. Aladdin had 3 wishes. There were 3 bears. There were 3 elven rings. You starting to see a trend? In science, observable matter is made up of a solid, a liquid, and a gas under stable conditions. In biology, there are 3 nucleotides that determine the genetic code of Java. That should be anything. Thank you, autocorrect. The perception of color in your retina relies on 3 types of cone cell in the retina. And those are short, medium, and long, and they are green, red, and blue. Right, I get the number 3 is important, so what? Let's just revisit this quote for a second. The first time you share tea, you're a stranger. The second time you take tea, you're not a guest. And the third time you have a tea, you're a family, all right? Let's wind up what's into looking at community now and how this impacts, all right? Early communities, around 10,000 BC, 3 main drivers, and Vinicius alluded to some of this in the keynote. The 3 main drivers that people had were food, shelter, and security. Fast forward a bit to the Neolithic times, and then agriculture and domestication of animals and more stability became more important. Around the Classical era, 500 BC, in Grecian society, you saw concepts like democracy, the rise of city-states, and the concept of civic duty become the 3 main tenets of that society. In the Han Dynasty in China, You saw because of the opening of the Silk Road to trade from east to west, west to east, you saw the advancements in global trade, okay? You saw advancements in technology. The first ever seismograph and wheelbarrow were attributed to this time in the Han Dynasty. And you saw advances in art. Porcelain and paper were invented during this period in the Han Dynasty. Medieval and early modern times. Okay, in Europe, you saw concepts of feudalism, manualism, and religion that underpinned everything in society. Manneralism, where the lord of the manor, the earl, the duke, would have knights and serfs fighting, working for him. Sounds like a racket, really. And then they would fight other castles, feuds. And religion underpinned all this. Early modern times, the rise of nation states, mainly due to, and colonization and industry, mainly due to advances in transportation technology, because people could travel around the world. As Vinicius pointed out this morning, the Portuguese went to Brazil because they had bigger ships, right? They could get further. Speaking of bigger ships, let's do a quick what if. The Ming voyages around 1500, in the 15th century, okay, they had 140-meter ships that were developed by an Admiral Hang Zi. And these ships sailed from China to the east coast of Africa. They did some trade there. Imagine what our society would look like. Kind of like imagining what we would be like if we had electricity 1,000 years ago. What would our society look like if the Chinese had managed to circumnavigate the world at that time and traded globally with these huge ships? I think there might be a little bit more Chinese influence in our lives. Contemporary societies around the 19th century, more physical now, more physical communities, again, fueled by advances in transportation technology, because that led us to suburbanization. People could live further from where they worked because they could drive or travel to work. And you saw a rise in diversity because people can move from other societies and other countries to come in these communities, to live in these communities. And now where we are, online for the most part. Okay, we have shared interests in communication and the various rules and norms that govern those, that underpin our online worlds. Now, take a look back to this primitive times where shelter, food, and security were most important, and take a little bit of an intellectual leap of faith. Okay, so map shelter to shared interests, and food to communication, and security to rules. And what, if anything, has changed in the last 10,000 years, or is just this person in a cave with a laptop? Okay. Let's take a quick look at this one: the security and the rules and norms. So, inclusivity is very important for us in our online world and our in-person world. Okay, Javas of conduct. See, what I did here was I replaced code with Java in my slide deck, and I didn't check it. The Javas of conduct, the codes of conduct. We have one here at JNation. But what we have here is this multicolored, multi-abled, multi-gendered group of people. But what can tend to happen when you're trying to become inclusive is you become selectively exclusive. You can see here all the kind of greens have gathered together. This is something that we need to watch for. I've seen this happen in tech communities, like, worldwide, where you have groups of people that gather with shared interests, and they're all very inclusive, but then certain groups will get, gather together within those, and they kind of become exclusive. You have to watch for this. There's a who's heard of Peter Gabriel? Thank you for making me feel. Oh, Monsieur, gracias, bon dia. No, obrigado. Sorry, that's the extent of my Portuguese. I'm dating myself, but there is an album, dating myself there as well, by a live album by Peter Gabriel, very imaginatively called Peter Gabriel Plays Live. And there's a song there called Not One of Us. And I think it illustrates this point beautifully. And in the intro to the song, Peter says, this is a song about groups of people that makes themselves into smaller groups in order to feel strong but excluding others. Okay? We're very social animals, okay? We all need human interaction, something that's been evidenced by the global health crisis that we all have. I try not to use the word pandemic. I don't like it. Global health crisis. Our interactions are vital for cognitive function and our development and our emotional support and our mental health. Okay? Gartner states that this year, actually, less than 24% of all meetings will be in person. Who goes to in-person meetings these days? Nobody. There you go. And the employees seek value and purpose and from the workplace and mental stability more than anything else. Okay, so is this anyone's first time at a conference? No? Good. You're outliers. Why that's important will become apparent later. Again, if this interaction is not provided by your workspace, you have to find ways to do it yourself. Especially in these days where clearly all of you are either working. Who's working remote? Okay? And who works hybrid? And who goes back to the office? Okay, I'm missing some, but that's good. How do we do this in the context of our interest in technology? There's three main ways: through conferences, through tech groups, and through your teams. Okay? Now with conferences, the three main ways to accomplish this: through learning, through social interaction, and the motivation that comes with this. When you're here at a conference, you should have a singular focus. Who checks their work email while they're at the conference? Man, you guys are good. No, that's all that. I do it too, all right? Let's try not to do that, okay? You're here for a reason. Try and have that singular focus. Conferences give you new skills and new insights that you didn't have before, okay? It's important to do these things. The social aspect, the networking, the collaboration, the relationships that you build. There's who's familiar with a concept of the hallway track? Hallway track? We have tracks here in different rooms, all right? The hallway track are the conversations that you have between the sessions with someone that you've never met, right? Usually. Over lunch, over coffee, at the bar after maybe, and meet someone new. Inevitably your real world use case will come into conversation. Now this person that you meet, they may or may not have solved that, but they could have a perspective on it that changes your life, changes the way you think about that problem. And that, in and of itself, could be more valuable than any of the talks you went to for that whole day. Motivation, all right? There's a reason that the artists work they collaborate. They work in communes sometimes. It's because they feed off each other's creative energy. Okay, you might be working with some clay or another type of sculpture or drawing, and then you see a fine artist working in oils, and that's a really great concept that you're working on there. I love what you're doing, and then you bring that back into your own work. Okay, these are the same type of things that you can get with the technologies that we're all interested in. Talking to other people about how they're using various tools and for what for can make you think in different ways. They fuel your creativity, which gives you a renewed sense of purpose. Now, technical groups, all right? Is anyone aware? Who knows about meetup.com? Meetup, okay. Maybe it's more a thing in the US, but it's where you can go to find groups of people who are interested in the same type of thing you are. Doesn't need to be tech, right? It could be like flower planting, okay, fishing, chess, who knows? Jugs, Java user groups. I talk about Java user groups because I'm a Java guy, and hackathons. Now, Meetup. The Meetup.com platform has got over 1,300 groups that are somehow connected to the Java ecosystem in over 470 cities in over 80 countries worldwide. It's a huge resource for you. And I would encourage you, if you don't know this resource, go look at it. Okay, go find Meetup.com. Find something in your locale. Find a group of people that have shared interests. Java user groups. Who goes to a Java user group? A few people? Good. Okay. Who in this room works in Java? More people than go to Java user groups, clearly. All right? Go to a Java user group. There are over 230 of these listed worldwide, okay, in over 200 cities and over 60 countries. They are an invaluable place to network, to meet people with similar interests, maybe meet your next hire, maybe find your next job. I personally have never ever gotten a job I've interviewed for. I've sent in a resume and gone through all the steps, and been the one that's offered. Never once in my life has that happened to me. It's always been through my interactions with conferences and jugs and out in the community. And then hackathons. Who's been to a hackathon? Is anyone? Okay. Good for you. I encourage you to go to hackathons. Here's why. So this is one in my hometown of Atlanta. It's called 48 in 48. And their mission is to build 48 websites for 48 non-profit companies in 48 hours. And it's phenomenal, right? So there's a venue, and people come in, they bring cots and beds, and the food comes in, and people with all kinds of skills gather for 2 days to knock out these sites. And yes, a lot of them are templatized, okay, to make it happen faster. You don't have to be a web developer or a product person or whatever to contribute these things. Okay, you will all have perspective if you go to these things. It can help accomplish whatever the task is of the hackathon. And you will learn new things. Okay, you might not think it's relevant to your day job and the tech stack that you're using, but it will help you think in different ways. And then there's your team. Okay, who here works with other people? Pretty much everybody. All right, I get it. So even in today's world, there are things you can do. You can do off-site events, you can do lunch and learns, you can do you. Right? I'll explain that. It's more challenging when we're in this kind of hybrid and remote world to meet people for lunch, okay? But it's not impossible. If you work for a large company, chances are, no matter where you live, there is somebody else that works for that company, okay? Meet them for lunch. What else are you going to do for lunch? Eat a sandwich at your desk if you're working remote? Get out. They're in the same position you're in, right? They want to get out too. There's no reason why you shouldn't meet them. Have lunch with your team. If you're hybrid especially, there are going to be days when you are in the office. And yes, when we're back in the office, I know we're all on Zoom with people in other parts of the country and other parts of the world, but there are other people in the office. Socialize, eat together, go for drinks. Lunch and learns, all right? No matter how well you think you know the product or tool that you're using, the people that make this know it better. A lot of times I see companies buy this stuff and they turn it on and they're not using, but 20% of the functionality because they just don't know. Invite an expert in from one of your vendors. You can do this over Zoom too, by the way. Bring in someone from the community to teach you about something. Bring in someone from your local Java user group or DevOps user group or whatever, or JavaScript user group. Bring them in. But the most important thing is you. You have to take personal responsibility for this. No one's going to do this for you, okay? Your manager isn't going to do it. You have to do it. But none of this is possible without consistency, okay? Now, software engineers understand eventual consistency, okay? And I'll read this. It's like, an update will eventually be reflected in all nodes that store the data, resulting in the same response every time that it's queried. This is from CeliaDB, all right? And there's kind of diagrams like this about this with node A and node B, whatever. That looks like a really boring diagram, right? I like this one, okay? Where it says, I know it's hard right now, but we really need to finish testing the database. Okay. The system needs to guarantee eventual consistency. I mean, yeah, it does. Eventual consistency is guaranteed by the second law of thermodynamics. Sooner or later, it will all be a uniform heat bath, maximum entropy. Maximum entropy means no work will be done. I'm getting a head start on that right now. The problem I have with these statements is, will eventually, and sooner or later. You have to have intentional consistency to achieve anything meaningful in life, not just tech career, whatever, anything. And the thing about intentional consistency is it's really, really hard. And no one is going to do it for you. You have to do it for yourself. Now, there are some examples of this, okay? In athletics, you can all appreciate athletes. Again, three main tenets, right? They need to have superb technique, they have, great conditioning and strength, whatever, and they have to have the right mindset in order to become the best athlete they can be. At work, this is actually an example from one of the Java user group meetings we ran. I think this was 2019. Did it say it on there? I don't know. 20 August. It doesn't say. I think it was 2019. When did Quarkus come out? Was that 2019? I think it was. So Burst Sutter from Red Hat was talking about Quarkus at this Jug meeting. And some months later, at another Jug meeting, I was talking to one of the community members, a lady, and she shared that she had just gotten a new job. And I said, oh, great, congratulations, how'd that happen? She says, well, I went to this interview, and, the manager said to me, do you know anything about Quarkus? Now, Quarkus wasn't part of the job description. It wasn't even in the tech stack that this group was using. But they were probably thinking about using it. And she said, I've never used it. But I was at a Java user group meeting some months ago, and they were talking about Quarkus, and it seems really interesting. Speeds up Java, blah, blah, blah. And then her manager shared with her after that she got the job because of that comment. She had a perspective. It wasn't the only reason. She was clearly qualified. But that was the differentiator. Who has kids? Anyone? Kids? All right. With children, being intentionally consistent is super hard. All right? I mean, the support is given, but creating the boundaries and the habits that turn them from terrible beings into rational human beings is super hard to do all the time. Now, do you remember this guy? Right? Now, I'm not a software engineer, but I play one on TV. I've got a degree in pottery, right? What the hell am I doing here? In talking about, why I talked about those examples of athletics and about work and about kids, I can understand. I've lived this life, okay? I was this athlete. This is me at the 1993 World Championships in Italy. I spent years doing this, okay? I understand intrinsically how difficult it is to be intentionally consistent about training for these things, getting your technique right, getting your strength training right, having the right mindset. The mindset is half the battle when you're an athlete. With work, all right, I was a tech recruiter for a long time, and when in around about 2004, J2E was blowing up. Is anyone still using J2E? Thank God, no one raised their hands. So I wanted to sponsor the Atlanta Java user group. I wanted to meet people in the community, take my banner, take out my jobs to hand out, meet potential consultants, meet potential customers. So I started to go. And back then it was like, none of this PowerPoint stuff. It was just live coding, debugging on an IDE. That was hard for a non-technical person to sit through. Okay, but I understood the importance of understanding a tech stack because it made me better at my job as a recruiter. I was in London years previously, and around 97, the kind of enterprise tech stack in the banking industry was C++ on Sybase databases with Power Builder front ends. Okay, so I remember going to a meeting once with some director, and I'm doing my sales pitch. I'm like, oh, we can provide you all these engineers. They know C++, they know Sybase, they know Corber. He's like, stop. What's Corber? And I was like, well, it's Common Object Request Broker Architecture. And the tool that everyone uses right now is Orbix by Iona out of Dublin. And he was blown away that I knew this. I don't know what it does. It's messaging and stuff, orbs. I get that, but I don't know how to do it. But I understood the importance of understanding what it was and who made the tools that everyone uses. Anyway, I wanted to learn more about this Java stack that we were starting to really get into. JT again was blowing up, and after a while, after some years, around 2008 or 9, I think, the guy that was running the Java user group left to move cities, and he asked me to join the board because I'm a business guy. So he said, "Well, can you join the board and be the business guy, be the CFO, run them, handle the bank account and all this?" And then by default, because we were running a conference in Atlanta, DevNexus, I became the organizer of DevNexus. I've never run a conference before. How do we do this? Well, I guess we need a venue, and we need the contract, and we need to sell tickets, and we need sponsors, we need T-shirts, we need branding, blah, blah. The list is endless, right? But then I started to go to other conferences around the world and meet to see how they were run so I could make mine better for the community, okay? And then that led me to, fast forward a bit, to being nominated as a Java champion, because I'm a non-technical person that's heavily invested in the community. In fact, the qualifications, because I ran that program for a while at Oracle, you don't have to be a technical expert to be a Java champion. You just have to be, it's either that or you need to be heavily involved in the community. Bear that in mind. Anyone in this room can be a Java champion. You just have to have intentional consistency about your involvement in the community and your job. You don't have to write books or invent something. You just have to be intentional. And then fast forward a bit, MicroProfile, which is an Eclipse Foundation project, they wanted to move into the incubation phase so they could release MicroProfile 3, but one of the blockers to that was they had to have a steering committee and a working group. That's in the ESF kind of governance rules. And so they came to us, the Java user group, because we run an event and all this. We're a company, we're incorporated. And they needed, we became one of the corporate sponsors that founded this MicroProfile steering committee. So there I am. Now I'm a steering committee member for MicroProfile. Why? Because I enjoy this stuff, right? But I'm intentional about it. And these are my kids. I love them to death, but it's so hard. It's so hard, okay? Again, to be consistent about the habits and the boundaries that you have to provide them. What has anything this has got to do with cups of tea, right? Let's look at this again really quickly. The first time you share tea, you're a stranger. The second time you take tea, you're not a guest. The third time you share a tea, you are family, all right? I want to talk about the bakery scenario. This is a very complex technical concept, the bakery scenario, right? Some years ago, I was traveling and I was in New York City, backpacking, no money, staying in a youth hostel. And underneath the youth hostel, there was a coffee shop, a bakery. So the first morning, go in. Can I have my cup of coffee, please? Here you go. Do you like my cat pictures? Every presentation should have cat pictures. Just bear that in mind. The second morning I go in, "Oh, welcome back. Nice to see you again. Come in." The third morning, "Oh, my friend, we just made a fresh baklava. Come in, sit down, enjoy, eat. It's for you." Whenever you meet somebody new in the context of doing something that you are both passionate about, for us it's a conference, it could be a book club, a chess club, church group, whatever, it doesn't matter. The interactions usually start like this. It's a hi, a handshake, and a hug. But this can't all happen in the same day. It needs to happen over time. Just think about this in your lives when you've been in these situations where you met somebody for the third time in a scenario where you're all doing something that you're passionate about. It usually goes this way. The community stuff for me, it gives a real sense of belonging, collaborating with others and also of giving back. I'm someone that, if you give me a gift, I'm really bad at receiving gifts, right? Here's a gift. I'm like, thank you. Appreciate it. But I love to give gifts. Right? I just adore giving stuff to people. It gives you so much more pleasure. So some takeaways, right? None of this happens by accident, all right? It all starts with you. No one's doing this for you. You have to be intentional. this is Hannes Einer. He's a German kayaker. This is the competition I did, or the sport I did. This is in the middle of winter, okay, in Augsburg, Germany. Training on, it's called the ice canal, for a reason, I guess. Ice canal. Anyway, Hannes was an Olympic champion. Became an Olympic champion. It doesn't happen without this. Years of this, okay, to get to this. And you don't have to be an Olympic champion or you know, the programmer that solves the world or invents the new thing. You just need to be the best version of yourself you can be. But it's not going to happen without being intentional. Enjoy, okay? This is a huge one. You've got to enjoy this stuff. Otherwise, why bother? You know, so many of us are, you know, we're doing things in life, not just work, where it's like, you just kind of roll in through. You don't really enjoy it, but it solves a problem at the time. The problem might be you've got to pay the rent or the mortgage. Try and get out of that cycle. Life's so much more meaningful when you get back to doing something that you imagine really enjoying what you do and solving the problem of the mortgage or the rent, okay? Life's so much better. So, this is usually 3 cups of tea, or with us, it's something else, right? Anyway, that's what I got. Obrigado.